Meet Michigan, Chapter 3, Lesson 2. Chapter 3, Lesson 2, Ideas to Explore. Explore, specialization, people to meet, ancestors, relatives from long ago, Brule, Europeans, Iroquois, missionaries, priests, places to discover, Britain, Europe, New France, Ottawa River, St. Lawrence River. ST stands for Saint, which sounds like saint. Lawrence sounds like Lawrence. Words to welcome: silk, prophets, religious, spices. Explorers from far away. Think about this while you read. Why did the French want to explore the Great Lakes? The French came first. The French were the first Europeans to come here. Europeans are people who live in Europe. They can be from countries like Britain or France. There are other countries in Europe too. It was during this time that people from Europe moved west to explore. They were often exploring North America. Someone who explores learns about a place which is new to him or her. He or she finds out about its land and people. Think like a historian. Why did they come? You already know one reason the French came here. They came to trade. Furs were scarce in France. They traded with the tribes to get furs to take home. The French found the land around Michigan had many animals with nice fur. The beaver was one good example. The French began to trade with the tribes for furs. Then they sold the furs in France. The profits they made attracted more furred traders. Soldiers came to protect the traders. They had no idea North America was so large. There were no good maps in those days. They thought they could find a water route across it. They really wanted to sail to China. They thought it was not too far away. Maybe it was just west of the Great Lakes. Why did they want to get to China? Spices and silk were also scarce in France. They did not have silk to make fine clothes. China had silk and spices. Those could be bought cheaply in China and sold in France. This is why the French wanted to find a shortcut to China. To find a shortcut, the French explored. They traveled along the St. Lawrence River. They used this big river like a highway. Their first forts and towns were started along it. They kept going west. Finally, they found the Great Lakes. The French explored the rivers to find where the water went. Along with traders, others came. Missionaries and priests came too. They were religious people. They did not come to make money. They wanted to tell the tribes about their God. The priests lived with the tribes. They learned their languages and their customs. They tried hard to be their friends. These are the 3 reasons the French came here. They came to find a way to China. They came to trade furs. They came to tell the tribes about their God. When did they arrive? The French reached Michigan a long time ago. They began to arrive in the 1600s. The first ones came about 1620. Learning who came, why they came, and when they came are good things to know. These are some questions historians ask about the past. Whose land is it? Soon the French claimed the land of Canada and the Great Lakes. They said it now belonged to France. They called it New France. Of course, they forgot the tribes were here first. The Europeans thought of themselves as better than the tribes. Europeans claimed every land which was new to them. Take the land and make it yours. This was their thinking at the time. The first Frenchman here, we think. Who was the first person from France to reach Michigan? Who was the first to meet the tribes here? He was a young man named Brule. He lived far from here. His home was along the St. Lawrence River. Brule had a thrilling life. He joined Native Americans on long canoe trips. Young Brule wanted to see where the rivers went. Maybe he could find China. Brule reached Michigan about 1620. He visited the Upper Peninsula. We do not know too much about what Brule saw. This is because he could not read or write. He did not know how to draw good maps. Can you imagine what it was like for Brule? Most of the time, he was alone with Native Americans. His trips may have lasted for months. Did he ever run out of food? Was he ever lost? Was he excited by what he saw? Don't go that way. Brule had to watch the way he went. He could not canoe on Lake Ontario or Lake Erie. Why? The French had enemies in this area. The Iroquois tribe lived along these lakes. The Iroquois hated the French. This was because the French helped the Huron tribe fight the Iroquois. The Iroquois never forgave them. The French used the Ottawa River to go west. Can you find it on a map? This river took them to northern Lake Huron. This is why the French reached the Upper Peninsula first. The fur trade. Each person has one job. The French used this river for a long time. They brought things to trade in their canoes. They met the tribes at Mackinac Island. Once the trading was done, they put the furs in the canoes. They paddled back to Montreal in Canada. One group of men always paddled the canoes. Another group did the trading with the tribes. There were clerks who counted the furs. The tribes caught the animals. They also got the furs ready to trade. People in France made the trade goods. They made the beads, cooking pots, the guns, and the traps. Each group had one job. This made the fur trade work smoothly. You can see people doing this at work today. Each group learns to do one job. They become very good in doing this one thing. This is called specialization. It helps businesses run smoothly. It cuts down on waste. It helps products cost less. With specialization, we depend on each other. In the fur trade, the clerks would not be good at canoe paddlers. They would not have the muscles. The paddlers might not be good at counting the furs. They may not do well with math. It takes people with different skills to make a strong team. Think about it, write about it. Number 1, the French came to Michigan for 3 reasons. Name these 3 reasons. Which did not make them any money? Number 2, about which year did the French first reach Michigan? Number 3, which peninsula did the French visit first? Number 4, scarcity is when there is not much of something. How did scarcity cause the French to come to Michigan? Number 5, workers specialize when each person has one job to do. Write an example of specialization. Use a timeline today. Long ago, the Pilgrims had their first Thanksgiving. What was happening in Michigan about that same time? Brain stretchers. What do you think your ancestors were doing when the French first reached Michigan? Take a stand. The French claimed Michigan, but the tribes already lived here. Was it right for the French to do this? Give reasons that support your position.